Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Family Table Talk. We're going to talk tonight about your students' classes. That is our topic. But as always, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. We are so excited you have chosen to join us tonight. I'm Kim Sandlin. I serve as the Director of Student Success. Was a proud alum, or I am currently a proud alum of the university, and have worked here for about 25 years and enjoyed every minute of it as a student and as a staff member, and love working with our parents. So I know many of you joining us tonight are probably folks that have joined us through orientation. So you might have a lot of your questions that might have already been answered, but we hope that you gain some insight into some of our first year seminar classes, our enrollment processes for your students. If you have questions about schedule changes and things like that, we'll talk through that and talk about some academic resources as well. So that is what is on tap this evening. I will turn it over to Aaron Hamilton so that he can introduce himself.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Aaron Hamilton. I'm the Director of One Stop Student Services, and my office plays two different roles for your students. One, the One Stop we do all throughout their college career. So basically what that is they can call our office or come in at any time. They can call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we can help them with their financial aid, with student account questions, with records and registration questions. Any questions they have about kind of the business side of being a student, my staff can work with them, like I said, 24/7 on the phone, but in person, we're over in Jardine Hall in room 112. And we can do that all throughout their undergraduate and graduate years, just to kind of help them get through every process, make sure they're making good decisions along the way, and try to remove as many hurdles as possible so they can focus on academics and being a student, and having fun. The other piece of my office is what we're talking about tonight, which we do first year advising for all of the incoming freshmen. So many of your students hopefully already have a schedule. They may or may not want to make some changes to it, but my staff are the ones that do that. And so we have 7.5 advisors. I say 7.5 because one of them started 6 weeks ago and she's almost fully up to speed for her group that she's working with, but for 1,800 incoming freshmen that we're working with. So it's a hopping office. We're always busy, and we try to do our best by students, and we'll get into a little bit tonight. We'll get into a little more detail about what we do and hopefully how we can help your students out. Next up is David.
Thank you, Aaron. My name is David Clam. I am in the School of Criminal Justice, and I teach and coordinate the Forensic Science program at Wichita State. One of the things that I also do is I teach a session of what we call first year seminar. First year seminar is a mandatory class for incoming students, incoming freshmen. And there are many different sessions, and I think well, your student has probably signed up for one or been signed up for one. Hopefully they've got to choose what they want, because there's a common read in first year seminar. And this year it's kind of I think going to be a very interesting read. It is Notes from a Poor Black Chef. And so there's recipes and stuff in it. And I know the author of the book is going to be on campus in the fall, in September, for the fall convocation. And I think they're going to have throughout the semester some of his recipes and stuff like that, I understand, are going to be available, cooked for the students to try out. So that's interesting. Anyway, each seminar is going to is going to have the common read, but each seminar kind of approaches things from a different angle. People in fine arts maybe are going to look at it a little bit differently than people in engineering, in liberal arts and sciences. We look at it from many ways. There's a session called Me and the World, kind of looking at it from a global point of view. Last year, I know we had a session where they everything they built their stuff around photographs and looking at it from that way, from an audio visual or a multi or digital media point of view, I guess would be a better way to say it. In my session, mine is called Criminalistics. What would Sherlock Holmes do? So we kind of look at things from more of an analytical deal, from a scientific, using a good scientific method to look at things. And a lot depends on where the students want to take it. Now, part of first year seminar also is to help the students learn their way around campus. We will visit the library, so at least they know where it's at, and hopefully how to use it. Now, we're not probably supposed to say this, but most of the students, we want them to know where it's at because they don't go there very often. But what they do like about visiting is they show them how they can access things digitally, remotely. And that's honestly how most of our students, I think, are using the library. I'm probably not supposed to say it that way, but that's what I'm finding that my students have done. And so showing them how they can still get the data if they don't think they can really want to walk to the library. But we're going to look and look at things that they don't even know about the university. Some of the things that are available, some go out and view the art on campus. I haven't done that, but I take my students over and we go spend time and believe it or not, over in engineering, over in the aviation, where we do 3D printing and digital AI type things, because that's one of the things that we're doing more and more in forensic science. So we let them see some of those things, because the things that we do in forensic science are the same things that they want to do if they want to learn how to do in gaming and 3D scanning. So we look at many different things just so they can kind of get used to that. We're going to talk about things that that students have trouble staying in college with. So we work very closely with Kim's staff and student success, but we talk about study habits. We talk about finances. What else am I supposed to be talking about? Kim, jump in here and help me.
No, you're good. One of the great things about seminar, first year seminar, is that it is interdisciplinary. So your students will, be in any class, maybe the Sherlock Holmes class, but it could be majors from all of our different colleges, all 7 of our colleges. 7 includes our honors college. So that's what's kind of interesting, is that we're bringing a collection of new students together, regardless of major. Now, engineering is doing a little bit different. They're really focusing on some engineering specific things this year, but for the rest of the colleges, and we may have engineers in a first year seminar that's not engineering, focused. And that's great. That's part of the beauty of it, because we really get students to have that common academic experience, but then mix them up, and so that they're learning from other students and meeting other students. And that's what part of that first year experience is all about. I did see a question in the comments: is the seminar supposed to be on their schedule? Because I'm not seeing it. Paul, yeah. So it's possible that your student may be taking it in the spring if all of our fall classes, were at capacity, and maybe it didn't fit the schedule. It's also, I think there are a couple of exceptions, but very few to that academic requirement. So it's possible they might not have it on their schedule. Aaron, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about how scheduling works. We can kind of switch gears a little bit, and then we can kind of pop back and forth as we need.
Sure. So specifically to the first year seminar, we put as many students in those as we can. They're limited in size. I believe 25 is the maximum that we can have in them, except for the engineering. They have a little different setup where they do a lecture and then breakouts. But if we take a lot of things into consideration, so you may remember your students had to fill out a questionnaire that asks, if they have any credits coming in, like from a concurrent enrollment or dual credit. Do they have any advanced placement or international baccalaureate? We look at all those things, and then we looked at what time are their classes and what classes. We start out, what classes do they have to have their first semester, and then what can we work in that they'll need eventually around that. So we try to prioritize what they have to have first and then build around that. So there are definitely, I wouldn't say half, but I would say close to half of our freshmen will have to take their first year seminar their second semester, the spring semester. We also have freshmen coming in right now that they'll take public speaking second semester and chemistry. There are just some classes that there's a finite amount of space, and like for chemistry, there's a finite amount of labs in particular, where it's very limited in how many they can have in each session, and there's only so much time in each day. So some students do have to wait until spring, and it's not a bad thing. It's just that's when they're going to take it, so they've actually got a little time before then. But for the first year seminars, there's right now quite a few of them have filled up, and so that may be why the student isn't in there. But the other reason could be based on their schedule. It was best to hold off and wait until the spring. Leadership and Self-Discovery is a seminar class. That's a freshman seminar hosted by I believe the Honors College. I have to double check with David and Kim on that, but it is a first year seminar class that students can take. And these first year seminars, David kind of talked about how they're structured, but they're first year seminars, first year advising, and Kim's student success group were all three different pillars of the first year experience. And with that first year, we want to make sure students have a foundation to be successful and to make it beyond the first year. So for some of our students coming in, they'll come in and may not have taken chemistry in person. Maybe they only took it online because their school went remote over the last couple of years. Chemistry in person and chemistry in college is very different than chemistry in high school. It's next level. And so we want to make sure students are A, ready for that, but B, we set up their schedule and we set them up for success within that. So within that, I know Kim later on, I was going to defer to her to talk about the resources that her office has, like supplemental instruction and tutors, which Kim, if you want to talk about that now, you can. But there's just some classes that when students get to college are just harder than high school. They just are. And a lot of students who, my daughter's going to be a freshman this year at Wichita State. And she has, I think, 2 B's in high school. And I already told her, I was like, that's not going to be the case in college. You're going to get more than 2 B's. And I'm hoping you don't get anything worse than that. But it's a different challenge. And Kim and I have been seeing with last year's class, and I'm not sure about this year's class yet, but the way they had to adjust in high school and go online for a while and then off and then on, and it affected their preparation. And so Kim and my job is to make sure that they're successful, and so we're working on that. Do you want to talk, Kim, real quick about those services your students?
Yeah, you bet. So we've got our Shocker Leadership Center, SLC, or not Shocker Leadership Center, Shocker Learning Center, sorry. The SLC is out of the Office of Student Success, and that area is kind of the hub, the first place that students can go to receive academic assistance. There are, I don't know, probably 10, 12, maybe more different tutoring services scattered across campus. And for a student to know what they qualify for, what's available, is kind of overwhelming when they're trying to navigate a new campus. And so if they start out at the Shocker Learning Center, they are able to get plugged into those services. It might be a tutor through our office. It might be their supplemental instruction leader. It might be a TRIO program that focuses on first generation and or low income students and or students with disabilities. It could be Office of Diversity and Inclusion and their PASS program. There are a number of academic success programs, again, kind of scattered. But the Shocker Learning Center, one of their charges is to kind of organize that and be a one place location that they can begin. We can help them figure out where to plug in, right? So if your students think that they might be a little bit challenged in a class or two, have them reach out early and request a tutor. The great thing about having tutoring and supplemental instruction kind of co-located and under the same umbrella of student success is that, we train all of our student leaders and tutors, SI leaders, to be able to pick up on clues that the student is giving them. Is this a problem or a challenge with the actual content in the class? Or is this a signal of something else is happening? Like, let's see your notes. And then quickly, if you've ever asked your high schooler to show them the notes from classes, you either have really detailed, really nice organized notes, or you have some stuff stuffed in a backpack or in a folder, or things that don't make sense. And so it could be a study skill kind of thing that we can help them refine and get stronger with, or it could be a content thing, and it could be a combination of both. So we, all of the tutors out of the Shocker Learning Center are certified tutors through the College Reading and Learning Association. And so they've gone through a number of hours of training, and they do continual training as they serve in the role as a tutor. And then all of our supplemental instruction leaders, that program is a certified program, accredited program as well, through the International Office for Supplemental Instruction. And so that requires our folks to make sure that we are hitting and training on a lot of different topics so that we can recognize kind of in our peers, as our students are our tutors and our SI leaders, they can pick up on those cues, they can recognize the flags, and they can help them figure out, again, is it content or is it something else? So our supplemental instruction program is paired with our historically difficult courses. So if your students enrolled in biology, chemistry, some of our math classes, and then a wealth of other classes, there's probably 30 or 40 different classes that we are supporting this fall. They're going to have what's called a supplemental instruction component led by a supplemental instruction leader. And that student has previously taken the course and they have excelled in the course. Very rarely do we select someone who earned less than an A- in the course previously. That student will attend the class, not for credit, but will attend with the students in that class, will take notes, will really model what a successful student looks like. And then they will lead outside of class weekly review sessions. And so their job in supplemental instruction as a leader is not to re-lecture. The expectation is the student has attended classes and is bringing their notes with them. So if you miss class, this is not a way to make up class, and that's clear from the beginning. The supplemental instruction leader is going to bring the students together and use these collaborative learning techniques, which can range from, think, pair, share kinds of things. So I, as the leader, will bring up a topic in class, discuss it with your partner, or think about it on your own, jot down some ideas, discuss it with a partner, and then share with a larger group. And so the students are, end up almost teaching each other and helping each other. The leader is there as the facilitator. So that's really the secret to our success in supplemental instruction. The less the supplemental instruction leader is in front of the group, the better, because that means our students are engaging with that really difficult content and they're helping each other fill in the blanks. They'll look at each other's notes. Where are your gaps? This is what I have. Did you understand it? The leader will then say, well, let's predict some test questions. And then they let them go and let them bring up all kinds of questions. And then the leader knows from previously taking the class, are they focusing on the right content? Do they need to be kind of shifting gears? And then that leader can kind of get them back on the right path if they're going down a road that might not yield very good results. What we do know about the students who participate in supplemental instruction is that if they attend 6 or more SI sessions, then they earn about a half a letter grade better than students who don't. And that makes really good sense because they've chosen to engage with the content. They've chosen to put more effort into their learning, which, they'll see the results then back in grading. Now, we can't guarantee that for every student, but that's certainly overall the success we see. And then if your student doesn't have, or if we don't have supplemental instruction in the classes that your students are taking, but they feel like they do need a tutor. We do have that tutoring program. It is much more kind of the one-on-one traditional tutoring when you're thinking about it. These services, both in tutoring and supplemental instruction, are all free for your student. So before you pay for a private tutor, which, there are pros and cons with that, you might want to give the services that we offer a try. Everything in all of the centers and all of the examples that I've shared is all free for your students. The last thing I'll say about supplemental instruction is your student will know if there is a supplemental instruction component to their class because the SI leader will get up in class or get on the screen and introduce themselves on the first day of class, explain what supplemental instruction is, and then we'll, share their schedule of their weekly review sessions. All of the students in those sessions also get an email from the SI leader before the class starts to ask who might be interested in participating and what does that schedule look like? Where can we find the most common times where the most students in class are available? And that's where, that's when they will schedule those sessions. So I know I talked probably more than I needed to about that, but there's a lot to help students succeed academically that's free, that a lot of students either are too shy to, ask for help or may just not know where to go because there's so much help. Sometimes that's the issue too. The last thing I'll mention before I let Erin take back over, excuse me, is it's very easy for your student to request a tutor. And so what your student will do is go to their portal, which is the mywsu.wichita.edu, and they will go, I believe it's their home tab. I can hop on over here and on my other screen and double check for sure. But in the student tools box, there's a link that says request a tutor. They click that link, and then they can also get instructions on our tutoring website on what to do next. So they just fill out what class is it for, what times are they available, and our staff will get them matched as soon as possible with a tutor. It is possible that they will match, same day match. It is probable that it won't happen same day, exactly at the time that they want it, until we have a little bit of time to work those, those scheduling concerns out and get the students and the tutors connected. So sometimes it's very, very quick. Sometimes it can take a while. So I describe it as, it's not an institutor program where you just pour in water and poof, here's your tutor. It does take a little bit of time and management on the back end to make sure that we're making those really good connections. So I will stop that and turn it back over to Erin.
All right. Thank you, Kim. So my first year advisors work closely with Kim's staff. So we try to have multiple eyes on students' academic progress in particular at any given time to make sure that we're talking back and forth and getting students to the right resources that they have available. One of the questions I had was, how can I verify the plan for the seminar? And one way we can do that is, yes, the answer is you can email the academic advisor. I will tell you right now, my advisors are about 3 days out on email, not because they're not trying, but just because there's 7.5 of them with 1,800 students. And we want to make sure when we reply, we're not just giving you some generic response, but actually answering your question and looking into it. So for this student, for example, it could be that they needed to wait until spring because the ones they wanted were full for the first year seminar, or it could be if students bring in 30 or more college credit hours. So we have students that come in, and they took multiple classes at a local community college or the college in their area that offers guest classes for students, then they don't have to take the first year seminar. So we do have a few students in that category. It's a pretty small number that bring in that many. Most students, if they bring in college credit, they're bringing in 6 to 18 credit hours. So they have, 3, 4, maybe 5 classes knocked out already, usually English, math, and some of the basics. And I see another one about would my son need to reach out to his advisor to get his veterans forms completed? And there's actually a couple of ways we can do that. My office, we can do things beyond our academic advisors. So we have other staff. If you want to call our office, or if your son's on campus, he can just walk in and we'll help with the veterans forms. We want to get those in pretty soon to make sure they're processed in time. The federal government has pretty strict deadlines on those kind of papers. So if you want to call 316-978-7440, I'm not sure if we can get that on the ribbon or not. Or we also have an 800 number that students can call. That's the one that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Either way, we can help with that. And one other resource I want to make sure you all are aware of, it's 3774, but thank you, is wichita.edu /OneStop. And when you go there, let me see if I can share my screen real quick. Oh, no, but that's okay. It's a website, and at wichita.edu /OneStop, it's all one word. Anything you type in, it should bring up an answer for you. So these veterans forms, some of them have specific names. So if you type in veterans forms, it'll bring up, 20 different answers for you. It's like any other search engine, but it's dedicated just to Wichita State and to answering questions our students have. So really, you can go to our website, you can call us, you can come in, we'll get that helped out. But I would recommend you do that as soon as you can. I saw another question: who do I contact about if student's current schedule appears to be missing a class they selected? That again, you can email the academic advisor, and they'll get back to you as quickly as they can. I'll tell you a couple of general things for all students right now. We have a lot of students that are like, hey man, I don't want to take classes on Friday. And that sounds great, but that's just not reality in a lot of cases. And we do everything we can to meet students' needs, but there are certain things that are scheduled when they're scheduled as far as classes. We have some students too that, a lot of our students work. 40% of our incoming, all of our students are first generation. So they're the first person in their family to go to college. And typically first gen students have a job as they're going. And most of our students do have a job. And we do everything we can to work around those schedules. But especially at this time of year, classes are full. And so we're stuck with what we have. And we try to explain why we pick classes we have. And we're happy to answer any questions and make as many changes as we can. But that all goes through the academic advisor content schedule. My son currently has 3 online classes and 1 in person. Can that be changed? He hasn't done orientation yet. I would reach out to your advisor for sure to see if we can change that. Some of that is in our control and some of it is not. So Psychology 111, for example, is all online. So everybody taking psych, it's an online class, which almost all the freshmen take psych at some point. But we can definitely work that out depending on the major and see what we can get worked out there. When and how do students find out what books they need for classes? That's a good question. And I am actually going to look on our website real quick for classes. So for sure, find out the first day of class. And David may be able to answer this better than I can. Because I know instructors share that. Go ahead,
I'll
Kim.
jump in here,
Yep.
Aaron, to help you out. So instructors have a deadline by which they need to let the bookstore know which textbooks they are going to be using for their class. And so I would say a good majority of our faculty usually meet that deadline. Some don't. Some are earlier than others, some aren't. We just had at our last orientation earlier this week, had one of our student leaders bring up her schedule and look at her classes and her books. And some of her books are posted and available and some of them aren't. And so you probably will want to wait a little bit closer to the beginning of the semester. And I would highly recommend that your students, there's two schools of thought. I would recommend that your students look for their books, order their books, and have them for the first day of classes. Will there be some that their instructors end up not using? Sure. Are there going to be some that are recommended? Yes. If you do that, and if you choose to have your books the first day of class, what you avoid later is the back order and the supply chain issues of not being able to get your books because you waited till the first week to see if you really needed them. And now they're all back ordered because everybody else bought the ones that are in stock, and so on, right? So you can, or your students can find out what books they need on the My Classes tab on their portal. They can they can enter in the CRN or the course reference number of their of the classes that they have in the portal, and then it'll link up with the bookstore and it'll show them the books that they need. They can choose to have them, they can pick them up from the bookstore if they're living on campus. I think there was a great question actually in the Facebook group, the Shocker Family Network, I think is the name of the Facebook group, about ordering classes and where's the option to have them delivered to the residence hall room. And you do have to select the pickup option, and then at pickup, then you can select and let them know the residence hall is my room is where I'm going to pick those up. So that is the key there. But sometimes those books are available early and sometimes they're not. It kind of depends on when the professor has submitted that information to the bookstore, and then the bookstore has then been able to put those in stock. Aaron, did you want to jump in?
I did. There's another option for students. Some of our professors go with what's called the OAT program, OAT, which is where all of their books are online and for the most part are free, or you pay a fee to use, which is much less expensive than using the books. And David may be able to speak to that better than I can, or I don't know, I'm probably putting him on the spot. But that's another option. Some of the classes, not all, but some of the classes have to.
I have some classes where where there is no textbook officially, and I supply either online stuff or copy things. So that is a possibility. The other thing that I would note, especially if you're not going through the bookstore, and a lot of students think they can get it elsewhere cheaper, or they just want an online book, the online version, which is in my classes is fine. Be careful and make sure you're getting the right edition. I always have a student or two that ends up with, because the old edition is cheaper than the new edition, and they go that way. Sometimes in some courses with some books, 90% of it's the same, but there are other times it's a total rewrite. And so eye out on that. The other thing I was going to jump back in the first year seminar courses. If you have an instructor who is new to teaching first year seminar, many times, or most of those classes have embedded student success coaches that go to the class every day. So that is another way to help, because a lot of times our students, they're not sure if they need help or not. And this is a great way, because that way, if the instructor's busy or is not sure the signs to look for, we have another person who's trained, one of Kim's staff, that's right there in the class with them. And so I was I was so grateful for the first couple sessions of first year seminar I taught to have a student success coach right in the classroom with me. And in that class, we're doing many things. For example, one of the things you have to do in college is write papers. And so I have students writing papers. They don't love it, but we write papers. I'm not an English teacher, but I have a teaching graduate assistant that helps me in my class. We read them over, and it's not so much that that if you do the paper, you're going to get credit, but we give them a lot of advice. Okay, maybe in these type of papers, in this situation, you don't want to write it in first person. There's things that they just haven't been exposed to, and everyone is coming from a different background, and so we try to help them get to a good foundation to go forward. And like I say, we tell them we're not English teachers, and they're going to have different ideas or different things that are requested from each of their classes when they write things. But that's another thing we try to do, is build them up to that. And I would also second what Aaron said. Students who may have done great in chemistry and biology, for example, come to college, it's a big step. With my forensic science students, they're taking a lot of biology and a lot of chemistry, but generally they kind of have a favorite, biology or chemistry, and they're taking the other one because we tell them they have to. And so they often are in these SI sessions because they have to get through, I think, 31 hours of chemistry and 26 hours of biology. So they're taking some challenging courses by the end, and it all builds upon it. So we just try to work on getting that good foundation and trying to have multiple ways to keep people from falling through the cracks.
And that's one of the beautiful things about the seminar classes, is that you can kind of, you don't have to be the best writer, but the first year seminar instructors know that you're just beginning, right? They know that, okay, we need to give them a little bit of coaching on writing. We need to give them so they're going to be a little bit more forgiving than, for instance, a history class, which is a writing intensive course. There's a lot of writing with history. And so, the seminar class is great to get that feedback, whether you're an English professor or not. David is exactly right. They can, I do want to mention too, we do have a writing center on campus and online, and they can help your students. I talk a lot about this at orientation. College level writing is not the 5-paragraph paper that they have in high school. And it's a little bit different. It's a little more particular about, structure and things like that. Each professor can decide how intense they are in that review. Some, will read it and they'll be fine with it, where the student's at with their writing skills. Others will be very particular. So if your student needs help in writing, either they're not familiar with MLA format or APA, whatever style, because professors will vary from class to class. Our library, again, is a great resource. And I told our students, it's a building you walk into, there's books in there, but there's lots of computers too. So it's a place to go and spend time in college. And they can help, and our writing center can help if your students have issues, because that is a big challenge for a lot of our incoming students. Aaron?
Oh, I was just you just referenced it. We do have a writing center there on campus where students can take their papers in. They'll help with grammar and punctuation. They're not obviously going to write the paper for them or anything like that, but it does help the students. And I don't want to give the vibe that when students come to college, like it's so hard, they're just having this awful time. But if you put yourself in their place, they've never been to college before. For students that live on campus, maybe they moved out of their house for the first time. For students that are driving from home, that are still living with their parents, they're having to figure out, how do I navigate Kellogg and all these different streets, and what's the, where's the restaurants? Like, there's a lot of cognitive dissonance going on away from the classroom that we're trying to work on the classroom part and make sure that those other things don't get too much in the way of what they're doing. So that's why we have all these resources, and why we try to keep an eye and re-steer students to the right resources along the way. I don't 100% know where I was going with that, but I just wanted you to know that they have a lot going on, and really the more conversations you have with them. If my son, he's 16, he's a high school junior, and if you look at my text, his responses for 5 straight pages were one word, and it was usually okay or yep or swag. So getting in and actually having a conversation, while it takes time and there may be distance between you, especially for your students going out of town. If you have ways to do that, it's good. And please encourage them. If you're struggling at all, even the first week of school, go talk to someone. If you think, okay, I don't know what's going on in this class, I don't understand what they're talking about, just let us know and we will get them to the right place and get them on track.
I wanted to jump in and go back to the books while David is with us on screen here. I don't know if you know the answer to this. Kim's question was, what's the difference between WebAssign and Cengage? And I'm not 100% sure. I think those are, I know Cengage is a company in textbooks. They're in the textbook business. I've not heard of WebAssign, and I don't know the difference. David, is that familiar to you as a faculty member?
I'm not either. I know that Cengage is an online service. Yeah. I'm not familiar with WebAssign. So I can't help you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're listed for your son's calculus class. Okay. Kim, if you will, I'm going to put my email address up here on screen, and our friends working behind the scenes probably already have it. I'm not sure. I'm going to throw my email up on screen, and if you want to email me, I'll get you in contact with someone from our bookstore who can be much more helpful in these kinds of things. I will say a lot of our textbooks are coming with online cards or access cards, things like that, that our students, they're sometimes packaged with the shrink wrapped textbook. It'll come with an online kind of thing. There's all kinds of ways that textbooks are now available, either online or not, and how they're packaged. Some of our textbooks aren't even in a book format. They'll come in just loose leaf papers that you put in your own binder. And a lot of that is to just keep those costs down and things like that. So just send me an email and I'll get you in contact with the folks who can answer that specific question. And then Paul, good for you, figuring it out on your son's schedule. Yes, the Music Really Does Make You Smarter is one of the first year seminar classes. It's a great one too. They're all great though. So we see the list of them every year and we're like, ooh, can I take that one? Can I take that one? And, we all have masters and PhDs and we want to take first year seminars sometimes. So, the last thing that I'll mention about books and first year seminar is the common read that David mentioned earlier. Your students will get a copy of that. That's included in some of their orientation fees. So they will also receive the common read book when they get to class. So you won't necessarily see that listed as a textbook for the seminar classes. The instructors will have those and pass those out in first year seminar. So you all don't need to worry about that textbook. So. All right, you all, I think we did talk about the writing expectations. That was definitely one of the things that I wanted to talk about tonight. Aaron, is there anything else that you wanted to mention?
There is. So for all of you on here, for when it comes to enrollment, we're going to have in August, my office will be open until 7 o'clock at night, and we'll do walk-in work with students. But when classes first start in that first week, it's always a crazy week in my office because students come in and like, I got to drop this class, or I got to drop this and add this. I always tell students, make sure you talk to one of my advisors first, because technically they can add and drop whatever they want. Students can, and once they attend orientation. But I tell them that for the purposes of financial aid, because a lot of our students, if they come in and they have a merit scholarship, for example, you have to be in at least 12 credit hours to keep that. And we don't want them to dip below that, by accidentally dropping the wrong class, and then they're out their scholarship. So I always encourage students, come talk to my staff, even if you have to wait, a couple of hours. I know it's frustrating, but please talk to us so we can make sure that whatever you're looking to drop, maybe instead of dropping it, you can get in a different section of it, which would mean a different time, but you're still in the class, you still have the credit hours. So I wanted to tell you that. And I also wanted to tell you that we will, in early September, start sending out invitations to students. My staff meets with students in person all fall. Like, that's all they do all fall, is just back-to-back appointments with students. But we start in October, and last year we actually started September 15th because we had such a large class. But we start meeting about spring in September, which sounds crazy early. And when I first started in this job, I was like, we do what? But to get in every student, we have to do it. So make sure they keep an eye out they should get an email and a text invitation saying, hey, click on this link, go to the calendar, you can go ahead and get scheduled, and we'll get students in and get started early. But it's really for two things. One is enrollment, so they can enroll for the spring and look at classes. But the main reason we do it is to check in and say, how are classes going? And when they come in, they're always like, great, things are great. And usually by the end of it, you find out, okay, 3 of the 4 classes are good, but this one, we need to make some corrective behavior. Maybe we need to look at different study skills or time management, intervene in some way to make sure that we get the students to the right place. So if they're taking engineering classes, for example, do we need to get them to Geeks, which is the Geeks tutoring, which it sounds like it's a funny acronym is what it is, but it's a serious thing though. So do we need to get them over there where they can have their peers tutoring them, making sure they get through those foundational classes together? And the earlier they can get in, the better. So as soon as, if nothing else from the night, if you hear, okay, make sure to tell them, get in early, please do, because it's really helpful. And if your student is one where their notes are loose leaf paper and probably crumbled up at the bottom of the backpack, those are the students we need to see first. The 4.0 students, A students, they're going to be fine. But the other ones are the ones we really need to see, and usually are the ones that come in latest. So if your kid's one of those, feel free to push them. Feel free to be like, Aaron, I need you to give them a call, and I'll be like, hey, I'm the director of One Stop, and you need to get in here by Tuesday. I don't like doing that, but I will if you need me to. But it's just those students, they have it. They have the potential. They have everything they need, but a lot of times they just need some focus and some guidance and just a push in the right direction. That's all they need. So just let us know, if we can partner with you on that too, to make sure we get students to the right place. I feel like I'm monopolizing time. Like, David, do you have things that you wanted to say that you're not able to get to?
Good. No, Aaron, please go ahead. I've jumped in if I have something.
Oh, okay. Let's see. I may have missed. How do we know when a class has a book needed to buy? Go to the library and search codes, music. That's when the student goes into their MyWSU account. And what was the tab you said, Kim?
I think it's the My Classes tab.
Yes,
your students will look at. Mm-hmm. And then they'll get a list of they'll see their schedule, and the CRN is the course reference number. And there's a shortcut, and I wish I would have screenshotted it. It's a shortcut that they can do. I know their schedule appears on the left-hand side of the screen, and my student was showing this to the parents yesterday. And there's a box on the right hand of the same screen, and you can enter the CRN. You can use comma, the next CRN, comma, the next CRN. So no spaces, use commas. And then when you enter that in, it'll return that list of books for you. So it's all through the My Classes tab. That you will do that. So if you're still having trouble, Paul, with that, again, you can send me an email, and I can send some more clear directions, because I know the left-hand side and then the right-hand side, that's not very clear direction. But your students will do that through their portal on their My Classes tab. So it's all kind of determined by that CRN number, which is a unique number to every single class that we have each semester. So I did want to mention a little bit. We talk a lot about at orientation about giving professors time to respond when you're communicating with them. So sometimes our students, this kind of what Aaron was talking about, calling our office, and it might take a little bit of time. Students are used to on-demand answers, right? And that is what part of One Stop does, is that 24/7 search and chat to get answers. But sometimes those are very specific answers that they might not be able to get right away. So our students will email a professor and then call that professor and say, did you get my email? And, well, when did you assign? Well, I sent it to you this morning. And, okay, well, I've been teaching all day. So sometimes there is going to be a little bit of time. Give professors a day or two to respond. Now, if there's something that's happening and it's been a week and you've heard nothing, your students heard nothing, then they can follow up with the professor again. But it's not, a lot of our professors are doing research, they're writing, they own their own businesses, they have lives outside of the classroom as well. They're normal people, right? They have a lot going on, and they might not have email on their phone, and they might not check it after a certain point in time. And so they really, really kind of need to keep that in mind. A lot of our student services areas are, quick to respond, because that's what we do. That's what we're in the business of doing, is making sure that we're getting really good information quickly to the people that need it when they need it, right? And that's why, that's why we're here, right? But our faculty, their purpose is a little bit different. And so sometimes students will have a little bit of frustration in trying to communicate and that kind of thing. And we just, encourage students, we'll give them time. Then if they've got a problem or something, then our staff can help them. Either a peer coach or one of our success coaches can help them navigate that situation. But their students, your students probably shouldn't, fire an email off to the dean if they have a problem in their first year seminar class, right? Have your students start communicating with their instructor first, because the dean is going to have to go back and around in a few different ways to get that instructor anyway. They're going to go back to that instructor to answer the question. So the student might as well start with their instructor, and then we can help them work their way up, chair, then the dean, then, other avenues if they have a concern or a complaint or something like that. There is a process, and we can help them through that. But really, we just ask that our students, give our professors a little bit of grace, just like our professors give our students grace when, they're sick and they need late assignment, exceptions and things like that. I don't know, David, if you would add any insight as the faculty member on that.
I would mention a couple things on either before the class starts, especially if it's an online class. Your student's going to have access to a syllabus, and that's one of the things. If it was online, I would print out. I would always keep a hard copy of that syllabus in a file for your whole college career. And probably you'll get a paper one if it's an in-person class, and it's going to list all those things on what textbooks and how to get them and stuff like that if you haven't found it any other way. And also probably in the syllabus, and I know the syllabuses at Wichita State have a lot of common language that we're encouraged to include, so you have to kind of wade through it. But also in the syllabus, the instructor's probably going to say, this is the best way to contact me. For myself, I get so many emails, and most of them are administrative. Well, again, don't go tell the dean this, but my most important emails or the communication is my students, not this administrative stuff. I actually encourage my students, and I may be a minority here, but I encourage my students, if they need to, they can text me. That's the way they communicate. And if I get a text, I will respond to that much quicker and much sooner, and it's much easier for me as well as it is for them, I think. Now, there's times that, depending on the subject matter, I may follow it up with an email to kind of document that. But I get a lot of stuff coming across my desk, and on the days that I'm teaching, it's a busy day. So, but my most important communication is with my students. I love the ones that will come and talk to me in person, but honestly, our students today are much more comfortable going from their phone. So whether it's an email or, like, say, for me, and I know not all instructors like this, but for me, I don't mind a text at all. So the main thing is communicate. Let us know what's going on. I can't help you or answer the question if I don't know what's going on.
Absolutely. And you'll get your students will have every type of instructor, those that are email me only, and I will respond within 48 hours, and they're very structured. We have one faculty member who talks during orientation, and she's like, I live in chaos. I get emails at all hours of the day, and I may, respond to you at 2:00 in the morning, and then there's those like David that, hey, text me. I'm cool with that. So every single instructor will kind of have a different approach, and he's absolutely right. That is outlined in their syllabus. Their syllabus is typically available anywhere from 2 weeks before the semester to, some professors don't post it until the class is met. A majority of the instructors that your students will have as incoming students will probably be available a week or two before the semester starts. So have them poke around in Blackboard. They'll find their syllabus there. So one important thing before we end our program tonight, because I have an eye on the time, is our winner of tonight's drawing for the parents. Tonight's winner is Angela Hartman. So thank you, Angela. Yay. I'm not sure what gift bag you will receive because my partner in crime for these programs is out ill this evening. I saw her popping in. Alicia was popping in those comments there as a participant, but she is under the weather. But our fine folks in student affairs will get with you. There she is. Our fine folks in student affairs will get with you and get that prize package sent to you. So thank you for joining us. Any parting thoughts? Anything that came up tonight, Aaron or David, that you want to leave us with? Words of wisdom or anything?
I do. One thing I noticed, and I did this throughout this entire presentation, is I should have explained things like credit hours. So that's basically how many hours a week you're physically in class. So if you take a 3-hour class, because earlier I said, they come in with 30 hours. Kim and I, we take these things for granted, these acronyms and things that higher ed is a completely different language. But anytime you have questions about that, or like we have students that'll ask about professors' office hours, that means that's when you go to the professor. They thought that meant that's when you cannot talk to the professor. Some of our students last year did. So if like I said, it's a different language that we speak. So any questions you have, please just let us know, and we're happy to answer them. There's no bad questions. I had a student once say, do students wear backpacks on campus? And I was like, yeah, you can bring a backpack if you like, or whatever you want. But students this is their first time doing it. They've never done it. And so they oftentimes just don't have the confidence to ask a question. And it's really important that they do, to make sure that they're staying on the right track and they're getting through classes and getting what they need. That's it. We speak a different language, so don't be afraid to ask questions, I guess. It's not an annoyance, or there's no stupid ones.
Well, in our department, we do have stupid questions, and we encourage them. We want to have the stupid questions asked there. I always point out, because I'm in a law enforcement training center, and so and the floors below me is the Sedgwick County Sheriff and Wichita Police Department. And down there, they don't like stupid questions. So we encourage them upstairs, because that's where we can do it. I've had the same question where students said, well, I think this is stupid, but your office hours, I didn't want to bother you. We don't call it office hours anymore. We call it student hours. So please reach out, ask any question. I don't care all the orientation you went to and stuff. There's things that we all take for granted that someone is going to say, I don't understand that. And so we spend a lot of time in our first year seminar class, especially just talking about those type of things. And there's times when I may have something planned and the students end up asking some questions, and my GTA, teaching graduate assistant, ends up taking over the class because they're better able to answer those questions because they remember when they didn't know the answers to that. So that's what it's for. So anything like that, reach out, ask somebody. Most of your instructors are going to be most willing to help or at least point you in the right direction. And then, like I say, you have Aaron and Kim and their staffs that do a wonderful job as well. But we're all here to try to help you succeed.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I think that's a perfect ending to this session this evening. Aaron and David, I want to thank you for joining us. I know it's an hour out of your evening, but I know you are also both very dedicated to the success of our students. So we thank you for your dedication to our students and their success and joining us here tonight. And I think that is a wrap for us. So thank you, everyone. I think we hit all of our questions in the chat or the comments. If we did not, I don't know if they've got time to flash up my email one more time. If you have any questions about tonight's content and you need to follow up with anyone, please feel free to email me. I will get you connected to the right person or my partner in crime, Alicia. One of us will get you taken care of. So thank you all for joining us. Have a wonderful evening and go Shocks. Good night.